Imagine a snowball perched at the top of a very long, frost-covered mountain. If you kicked it off the edge, it would begin to roll. It doesn't look like much at first, just a small clump of white tumbling down the side. But as it rolls, it picks up a few flakes, then a few more. By the time it reaches the base, it's a giant boulder of ice, moving with the momentum that seems impossible compared to how it started. That is how compound interest works. The growth is exponential and has no end to it. The only ingredient to it is time. The problem is everyone's attention span has been fried. Anything more than an hour without doom scrolling at IG Reels or TikTok is impossible. The idea of long-term value investing is out of the question to them. It's not providing instant dopamine hit results, causing everyone to look for the next holy grail moonshot like Nvidia or Bitcoin that will make them a millionaire overnight. But here's the thing, chasing those moonshots is just gambling with extra steps. I can't believe the people chasing these companies are actually doing legitimate due diligence on them, rather just hearing someone shill it and then drop their life savings into it, praying the green line goes up, only for it to flop. While everyone is busy trying to find the next one, that 7% yearly return on the S&P 500, which is actually closer to 10.5% before inflation takes its bite, begins to look more and more tempting once you realise that 85% of retail traders lose money day trading. It's a steady, true value wealth builder. It's not flashy and won't make you a millionaire overnight, but it is remarkably reliable. You can pick any day in history to invest in the S&P, and 20 years later you will have never lost. To understand the true power of this 7% growth, let's look at the smallest possible starting point, just £1 a day. Imagine you decided to set aside just £1 every single morning. I doubt you'd even realise it's gone. It's spare change in your pocket. For the first year it feels like nothing. You've saved £365 and earned £13 in interest. You're probably thinking that it's not worth it, but what effort did you actually put in to do and earn that? Most investment platforms offer an auto-invest feature that takes less than 10 minutes to set up and you can forget about it for the rest of the year. Now, if you continue to do nothing for the next 29 years, that £1 a day has just turned into just over £31,000. Of that, you only actually put in just a little over 10,000, and the other 21,000 was made through interest alone, over double what you actually contributed, meaning that your money has worked harder than you did. Now for the part we've been told 1,000 times before, that the reason Gen Z is so poor and we can't afford to buy a house is because we buy coffee each day, which seems ridiculous because it is. Well, sort of at least. It's not the coffee that's the problem, it's that we don't understand the opportunity cost of that money, as it's never been explained to us properly. I want to give you an example between person A and person B. Person A spends £5 a day on coffee. Person B buys a nice home coffee machine that can absolutely make good coffee, I know as I have one, for £500. Now, that it only costs them £1.50 a day to make their coffee at home, so they can invest the other £3.50. At the beginning of the first year, person A has £0 and person B is now £500 in the hole. By the end of the year, the person A has spent £1,825 on coffee, but person B has £728 invested. Now after 5 years, person A has spent £9,125 on a daily coffee, whereas person B has a portfolio worth £6,500. These numbers only get more extreme the longer it goes on. At the 10-year mark, person A has spent over £18,000, whereas person B has a considerably sized portfolio sitting at £16,500. What I want you to realise is it's not actually about the coffee itself. You could apply this to any area of your life, and once you begin to see purchases as future returns, it will drastically change your spending habits for the good. Be it clothes, not buying the latest new Gucci drops, food, cooking at home rather than door-dashing Five Guys, your car not financing the latest model at an outrageous interest rate to look cool and rich. unnecessary purchases. Think to yourself whether you actually need it and will it benefit you. Whatever it is, find some way to save a few pound here, a few pound there. These small sacrifices begin to add up quickly without actually taking away from your life now. Of course, treat yourself from time to time, just maybe not every day. Now, that's just the beginning of building wealth. Let's look at it later in life. Imagine you stayed consistent. You managed to save a few pound here, a few pound there, whatever it was. You didn't chase penny stocks. You didn't panic when the news told you the world was ending. And you just continued to build your portfolio over the years. And it's now worth 500,000. Now, depending on how hard you invested, how early, all the different factors depends when you'll reach this goal. But once you're there and you decide you want to start withdrawing from it to supplement your life, you can use what's called the 4% rule. This is where every year you can skim 4% off the top without running out of money. What does that look like? Your portfolio grows by 10.5%, which I mentioned earlier. So it's now worth 550,000. Inflation takes 3%, which is 15,000. You take 4%, which is 20,000, and your portfolio is left at 515,000. In conclusion, you've pocketed 20,000 and your portfolio is bigger than it was last year. That's £1,666 every single month, not from a boss, not from a 9 to 5, but from work of compound interest. It's the true freedom fund. It's the ability to say no to a job you don't like and yes to a trip you've always wanted to go on. Now, how do you actually build to that 500,000? If you go online, you'll find a million experts telling you to buy this one stock or hedge with this specific bond. It sounds sophisticated and it sounds like what a pro would do. But for most of us, the best and easiest, most realistic idea is a 90 to 100% ETF-based portfolio. Just keep it simple. For example, the S&P 500 or a total world market is essentially just a basket. When you buy one share of an ETF, you aren't betting on just one company. You're betting on the top 500 companies in America or thousands of companies globally all at once. Why is this near 100% ETF portfolio better for most young people? There's a few reasons. And that is the death of your own ego. The biggest enemy of your wealth isn't the market, it's you. When we pick individual stocks, our ego gets involved. If the stock goes up, we feel like a genius, we then take on too much risk. If it goes down, we feel like a failure and sell at the worst possible times. With a 100% ETF portfolio, you aren't trying to outsmart the room. You're simply saying, I believe the global economy will be larger in 20 years from now. It takes the emotion out of the equation. You don't have to read balance sheets or follow CEO drama, just buy the whole thing. And then there's the math of it. In a 100% ETF portfolio, if one company in the S&P 500 goes bankrupt, you wouldn't even notice it. There are 499 others picking up the slack. But if you put 50% of your savings into one new hot tech stock, and that company falters, your snowball shatters. By being 100% in diversified ETFs, you are protected by the sheer law of averages. Wealth isn't about being the smartest person in the room, it's about being the most disciplined. The math is settled, the only thing missing is the start date. Don't wait for the perfect time to invest. The perfect time was 10 years ago. The second best time is right now. Give that snowball its first nudge. Future you is waiting at the bottom of the mountain, ready to catch a fortune.